Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but the questions he left behind refuse to die with him. Because this case was never just about one man. Authorities had opportunities. Reports were filed. Warnings were issued. Victims spoke. Yet action came slowly, or not at all. When power meets hesitation, injustice thrives. The 2008 plea deal remains one of the most controversial legal agreements in modern history. At its core was a non-prosecution agreement, or NPA, a deal struck with federal prosecutors in Florida. This agreement effectively shielded Epstein and several named, but unindicted, co-conspirators from all further federal criminal charges related to the investigation. In exchange, Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 lesser state-level prostitution charges. The terms stipulated a mere 13-month sentence in a county jail, with exceptionally broad work release privileges that allowed him to leave for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The secrecy surrounding the deal, which was sealed from the public and hidden from his victims, fueled immediate and lasting outrage. For years, it stood as a stark example of a two-tiered justice system. Critics argue it sent a clear and damaging message: that immense wealth can be used to negotiate consequences that are unavailable to ordinary citizens. That powerful influence can bend the arc of justice, halting a federal investigation in its tracks and preventing a full accounting of the alleged crimes. And most disturbingly, that in the cold calculus of the legal system, some lives and the trauma they endured matter less than others. Lost in the headlines of legal maneuvers and powerful names are the survivors. While the world dissected the case, they were left to navigate the quiet, personal aftermath. Their stories, the very heart of the matter, often became a footnote in a much larger, more complex narrative. These are people whose trauma didn't end with Epstein's arrest or his death. For them, the abuse was not a singular event in the past, but a persistent presence that reshaped their lives. The journey to come forward required immense courage, a step into the public eye that reopened deep wounds, often without the promise of a clear resolution. For many, accountability still feels unfinished. Epstein's death in custody closed the door on a criminal trial, denying them the chance to face their abuser in court and have their testimony officially heard and validated. The legal system, which they had trusted for justice, ultimately could not provide that final, definitive day of reckoning. And so, closure remains an elusive, abstract concept, not a destination they can reach. The fight for justice continues, but the path is fraught with legal complexities and the painful reality that the central figure is gone. Their healing is a private, lifelong process, far from the glare of the media and the cold finality of a court filing. The Epstein case sparked reforms. It reignited conversations. It forced uncomfortable reflection. But systems don't change overnight, and silence still exists, just quieter. The documents, the timelines, the court proceedings, they provide a framework, a chronology of failure and belated action. But the Epstein Files, and the public record as it stands, do not give us all the answers. They represent fragments of a much larger, more disturbing picture, one whose full dimensions remain shrouded in secrecy and legal complexities. The complete list of enablers, the full scope of the international network, and the precise ways in which systems of power were manipulated to protect the guilty, these are the questions that persist, haunting the edges of what we know for certain. Yet, these incomplete records serve a vital purpose. They are a stark and powerful reminder of why asking questions matters. It was the relentless inquiry from survivors, journalists, and prosecutors that forced this story out of the shadows and into the public consciousness. Their refusal to accept silence is the reason any measure of accountability was ever pursued. Because justice delayed isn't just justice denied. In a case like this, it becomes a corrosive force, eroding faith in the very institutions designed to protect the vulnerable. It's a warning, a clear and present signal that wealth, power, and influence can build walls so high that they obscure the most horrific crimes in plain sight. The criminal case against Jeffrey Epstein may have ended, but the pursuit of truth continues. It lives on in the civil courts, in the ongoing fight of the survivors, and in the public's demand for transparency. And for that reason, this story is far from over.